Welcome back to another Spirit Island video. In this video, we're going to be continuing our series on Is This Spirit for You? In this video, we'll be focusing on the Bringer of Dreams and Nightmares. The setup is going to be 2 presents in the highest number of sands on your board. The playstyle says, with most spirits, terror victories are a backup plan if the main push against the invader stalls out for too long. But Bringer turns fear into a more viable primary strategy. Its transformation of damage and destruction into fear can turn major powers into tremendous sources of terror and panic. However, the only offense Bringer has is Dahan fighting back. While it does have some defensive utility, it is fundamentally poor at clearing invaders out. It is a very high, well, not very, but it's a high complexity spirit close to the very high complexity threshold. Summary of powers, it is a low offense spirit, basically none. It has a decent amount of control. It has the highest amount of fear, less defense compared to control, and then about the same utility. Flipping over the spirit board, it says to dream 1,000 deaths. Your powers can never damage, nor can they destroy anything other than your own presence. When a power of yours would destroy or deal enough damage to destroy explorers, towns, or cities, you generate 0, 2, or 5 fear, respectively. The power pushes all explorers / towns it would destroy. So you can't push cities. That's really important. Looking at our growth options, we are a very interesting spirit as we are a 0, 1, 1, 1. We have a reclaim power card gain, a reclaim 1 place of presence, power card gain and place of presence, and then place of presence and gain 2 energy. I really love Bringer's growth options here. I think they're all very unique, very interesting. I think this Reclaim 1 is very underrated. It's incredibly powerful at allowing you to reclaim that major that you've drafted earlier in the game. Looking at Bringer's tracks, you end at 5 energy and 3 plays. The plays track is extremely mediocre, and that's one of the big problems with Bringer. And mainly that's because you're a 0-1-1, like I said, but you have a double dead spot on bottom track, as well as having 2 spots here that are just completely useless. So both of these reasons are why when you play Bringer, you're pretty much only playing top track builds. I've seen you're pretty much just going straight top track. I've seen some meme builds where they try to get to 3 plays, but it's pretty much just not good enough. Also the spirit rewards you for playing majors. So well rewards you, and then this the special rule rewards major focus playstyle, and the energy is needed to afford those majors. You have 2 innates. The left innate is this utility innate. It allows you to look at any face down fear card in the deck. A lot of times I like looking at the very top terror level 2 card, because usually tier level 1s don't have that big of an impact on the board state, but those tier level 2s do. So I flip over the very top tier level 2 card, and that's because once you gain this card, you'll be at tier level 2. So like knowing that I have this Dahan gain the edge is actually so important in this game. So now I can plan around known defense. The second part of this threshold, it allows you to grant an element that a spirit already has one of, and just a little bit of elemental support is pretty sweet. The right innate is straight fear. I actually hate this innate. I really wish it was something more interesting. Looking at the uniques, we'll look at Dreams of the Dahan. It's 0 cost fast, moon, air, 2 range. You can either gather Dahan or generate a lot of fear. Predatory Nightmares is a 2 energy slow, moonfire, earth, animal. 1 range sacred site from a land with invaders, or targeting a land with invaders. You can do 2 damage and then push up to 2 Dahan. That 2 damage is likely going to kill a town, which is going to generate 2 fear. And then, of course, you get the Dahan movement. This is one of your weaker cards. Dread Apparitions is a 2 energies, fast power, moon, air. Target a land with invaders. 1 range. When your powers generate fear in target land, defend 1 per fear. And then you also generate 1 fear. So this is essentially a 2 energy, defend 1. And the idea is you want to use Dread Apparitions to combo with your Night Terrors for massive defend. And finally, the most interesting card that Bringer has, it says Call on Midnight's Dream. It's a 0 cost fast moon animal, 0 range. If target land has Dahan, gain a major power. If you forget this power, gain energy equal to the Dahan. You may play that major immediately by paying its cost, or if invaders are present, to fear. So it's another way to get fear. A lot of times you'll play these two cards together, and then you can utilize that fear gain to buffer your defense. What's really cool about Call in Midnight Stream is you can gain a major with this card, but you don't have to forget this card. You can forget a different card and then use this card later in the game. The clause of forgetting this card would only allow you to gain that energy and to play the card if you'd like. That's something to think about. Okay, so is this spirit for you? Bringer is it's a pure fear spirit. I mean, they told you right up front what it's going to do. It's not going to be killing invaders outside of Dahan counterattacks. The defense is pretty mediocre. I know you have a defense with Dread Apparitions, but this card is very underwhelming. Utility, I love the left innate. I love that utility. And the control, I think, is also fairly mediocre. When you're playing with the spirit, you're going to need to win through the fear victory because you're not going to be able to kill all of the cities. So everybody at the board needs to understand that, especially against England. A lot of times I'll see players trying to rush clear their board with a Bringer on their team, and they need to realize that Bringer is never going to be able to do that. Of course, there's going to be edge case, like weird fringe cases where it's possible, but I would say 99% of the time, Bringer won't be able to kill those cities, and it's going to either need other spirits to do that, or it's going to need to push the fear victory. So if you like playing majors, this is the spirit to play. That's because 1, the bottom track sucks. 2, the top track is pretty good. 3, the spirit rewards you for playing majors. So majors, great on Bringer. Minor power strat is pretty underwhelming. It can still work. It's just you won't get the best returns. This is not a fast offensive spirit. This also isn't a spirit that can create pockets and play to the tempo. You're pretty much just looking for those powerful majors to generate the most amount of fear. I rate Bringer fairly low, and even when you combo this with the spirit is pretty underwhelming. There are plenty of adversaries that just devour this spirit, and unless you can high roll a good major, you're just gonna die most of the time. Now, luckily, you do have a lot of ways to gain majors, so it is possible. But usually, Bringer causes the team to lose in a lot of games. So let's look at the two aspects. I think both of these aspects are phenomenal. And so I hate playing Base Bringer, but both of these aspects I love. I've never played Violence, but I've played Enticing. And let's talk about Enticing first. So Enticing is going to get rid of your right innate, which is awesome because I hate this right innate. You get Enticing, and it gives you a fast power, and it says each invader phase Dahan slash each invader slash Dahan in the target land does -1 damage while in target land. The level 2 lets you gather and explore a town. Level 3 does an additional -1 damage, and then the level 4 allows you to gather 4 more things. When you hit this tier 2, you essentially give the entire land -2 damage per invader there. It's not exactly that, but it's very close to it, which is excellent at stopping lands from blighting. So this is a very powerful defensive innate. It would increase this defense quite significantly, and it would decrease the fear pretty minor. I would say very minimally like this, probably. Actually, it's probably less than that. And that's just because this right innate, I mean, it does generate a decent amount of fear. Usually you're getting between, I'd say 1 and 2 fear a turn from this innate. But a lot of times this extra fear doesn't really matter, especially if you're playing a 6-player game. Like in a 6-player game, your fear deck is going to be 24. And 1 to 2 fear a turn is just, you're barely scratching the deck. You'd rather have a more defensive tool to disrupt the invaders. Oh yeah, this also increases the control quite drastically. This is the aspect that I did playtest a little bit. Ray spent a lot more time playtesting it than I did, but we both love the aspect. And I pretty much think this is like if I were to play Bringer, I would only play this. Just like River Travel, like I think this adds so much more complexity and interest to the spirit, or interesting pathways. Now, the other one that I see a lot of players playing is Violence. Now, Violence is going to replace that left innate here. And that kind of makes me sad because I think the left innate is one of my favorite things about base bringer. So losing that just is such a feel bad for me. And then keeping that right innate, like I just mentioned, I hate the right innate, so I have to still play with it, but it makes sense thematically. Violence is like, hey, what if instead you just generated so much fear and just kind of threw out the support game plan? And I think that's really interesting. You're gonna lose that unique. You're losing Dreams of the Dahan, and you're gonna gain Bat Scout for Raids by Darkness. And this is what Violence does. It says your card plays on bottom track. Grant twice as many plays during the spirit phase. These extra card plays can only be used for cards with the word damage or destroy. In addition, the fear that you're going to generate is +1 per tier. So it's 1, 3, and then 5. So 1, 3, and 5, which means killing explorers and talents generate a lot more fear. This aspect is very strong, especially in solo. I think multiplayer, it's going to struggle just like Bringer in general, just because it's less about rushing the fear deck in a lot of games, unless the team builds around this. And this is the one aspect that I think for Bringer, where I think if the team kind of collaborates more, you might get more value out of this. But once again, you're going to need to win via the terror level, killing all of those cities, or not killing those cities, via winning, maxing the fear deck out. So violence is going to double the number of cards you have on that bottom track. So really, this says 4, 4, 4, 6, and 6. It is kind of sad because it doesn't really fix Bringer's problem, where bottom track, I guess enticing doesn't either, but both of this just doesn't really matter. It really sucks to take 2 dead spots to get to 6 plays, but I mean 6 plays is nuts. Um, a lot of times I talk about the concept of 3-3, where if you generate if you can gain 3 energy a turn and 3 plays a turn, you can play majors and threshold them, and Bringer can start that on turn 2 because you already get 4 plays starting. So, I mean, once you're on turn 2, so turn 1 and turn 2, you're already at that 3-4, which allows you to do some really crazy things. Overall, I think both aspects are really fun to play. If I were to ever play Bringer on this channel, which it will be, I'll be playing a lot more Bringer in the future, and be with both of these aspects. And I am excited to be playing Violence because this seems like a very fun addition to the Spirit. If you like this video, like, subscribe for more content. I'll see you guys in the next video.